If I told you that 90% of millionaires do this one thing, would you do it? Over 140 millionaires were surveyed about their money, and nearly all of them had the exact same number one regret: wishing they had started investing sooner. Now, if that's not convincing enough, here's an insane stat. Waiting until you're 25 instead of 18 to start investing will cost you on average $1.4 million. And waiting to invest until you're 30 instead of starting at 25 will cost you another $700,000. That's the same as working full-time minimum wage for 160 years straight.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Now, in case you didn't know, here's a 25-second explanation of what investing is. Companies like Apple let the general public, which is us, buy shares, which is basically like owning a very small percentage of the company for a certain price. The better the company does over time, the more people want to invest, which means the more valuable the company will become and the share price. Therefore, the more you invest, the more you own, and as long as the company's value rises, the more valuable the shares that you own will become. Pretty simple, right?
What?
Now, the biggest misconception is that you need a lot of money to start investing, when really, $5 a day will make you a millionaire in 50 years. But who wants to be a millionaire in 50 years? So today I'm going to show you how starting with very little money can actually turn you into a millionaire in as little as 20 years or sometimes even less. Let's break this into 3 very simple steps: where to invest, how to invest, and how much to invest. But before step 1, we have to make sure we understand why it's important to invest, even if it is only $10 a week. From a mental standpoint, investing any dollar amount helps you build a habit of building a better future for yourself. Now, unless you've been living under a rock the last few years, you can tell that the price of everything has gone up. A lot. This is thanks to investing's evil twin brother, inflation, which basically means that this dollar is worth less now than it was a year ago, which is why your grandparents could buy a house 50 years ago for $5 and a Big Mac. Must be nice. However, if you invest your money, it'll grow over time, which combats inflation. And the longer you let it grow, the more money you'll make, which is why it's so insanely important that you start investing as soon as possible. The first thing we need to do to start investing is selecting a free brokerage account. Now, Robinhood is the most popular app you can get. It's a very friendly and super easy to use interface. This was actually the first app that I got when I first started investing, and it made the process kind of fun. One of the great things about Robinhood is that it's very easy to get free stocks. They always give rewards for new users, so when you use a referral link to create your account, you literally have stocks in your account before you even put money in. Another great app that I personally use now is Fidelity. It's not as easy and user-friendly as Robinhood is, but it's where I have my retirement accounts, so I just have all my accounts together. Keep in mind, you can switch between accounts later down the line if you like an app better than the other. You don't have to worry about having to stay on one app the entire time. Once we have our account set up and ready to go, we need to decide what kind of investing we plan to do. If you're like most people and you don't really want to give it a second thought and you want it to be as simple as possible, I recommend investing in the S&P 500. Now, the S&P 500 is a combination of the top 500 stocks in the market. Over the last 50 years, it's averaged about 10 to 11% of an annual return, which is actually really good. If I'm going to be honest, there's really no better choice than going with a very diverse option. Now, if you want to have a little bit more fun with investing, you can still invest in the S&P 500, but you can also invest in companies that you personally believe will do well. This can be companies that you personally buy from. For example, I have a Sony camera, I have a PS5, I have an iPhone, and my wife and I shop at Target, which means I would invest in Sony, Apple, and Target. These are companies that I personally shop from and I believe will be very strong 10 to 20 years from now. Keep in mind that the risky part of investing is when you decide to YOLO your money away in some stock in hopes of huge returns. This is a big fat no. Please never do this, like, ever. Any investor will tell you that you should always be diversifying your investments, which is why I always recommend the S&P 500 because it's diversified and you never have to worry about picking specific stocks. To give you an example of what the S&P 500 looks like, here are the top 10 stocks of the S&P 500 as of right now. Okay, so we've decided on our investment plan. Now we have to decide how much we want to transfer into our brokerage accounts. Keep in mind, this does not have to be a big amount at all. This is just something to get started, and if you're using a referral code, you might not even have to deposit any money at all. Once you know where you're going to invest, what kind of strategy you're going to use, and how much we're going to put into our brokerage account, now we can decide how much is going into each stock. Let's say I have $100 and I want a lot of it in the S&P 500, but I also want some of it in Apple and Sony. I'll put $70 in the S&P 500 and then $15 in Apple and $15 in Sony. And then that's it. You did it. You are one step closer to financial freedom. Now, your deposit will grow, but that alone will make you a millionaire. You want to make sure you keep investing, whether it's every week, month, year, something so that you keep growing your portfolio. So, let me get really specific. How much exactly do we need to invest to become a millionaire? Well, here it is. If the S&P 500's annual return stays the same, you'll be a millionaire in 50 years if you invest $10 a week. If you want to be a millionaire in 40 years, that'll take $30 a week. In 30 years, that'll take $100 a week. In 200 years, that'll take $300 a week. And if you want to be a millionaire in 10 years, that'll take a whopping $1,200 a week. Obviously, the longer you grow, the less you need to contribute. That's because of something called compound interest. To give a 10-second lesson of what compound interest is, it's the money you made on your first deposit being reinvested into your portfolio. And then the money you make on that deposit will be reinvested into your portfolio again. The more you make, the more you invest, which means the more you make. It's a snowball effect. So what's the point in all this? Is it to become a millionaire? Is it to retire? Maybe you don't want to work a job anymore so you can pursue something you enjoy regardless of the amount of money that'll make. If you want to know my personal plan on how to retire in the next 10 years regardless of income, please consider subscribing because that's going to be coming out real soon. If you decided you wanted to start a brokerage account, I've put some links in the description of brokerages that I've personally used and can confidently recommend. And to help you out, I'll make a note on which ones do and don't give a sign-up bonus. If you decided you want to invest, I want to let you know and reassure you that this is the best decision that you can make. It's how people get ahead in life, so the fact that you're doing it as early as you can, it really does help out a lot. You want to make sure that you start investing before it's too late to really earn the benefits of compound interest. But I'm going to zip my lips and get back to my book. I'll see you in the next one, and have a nice day. I'm going to turn that off.